it's our inherent right to be joyful and laugh and find things funny.
Welcome to Behind the Armor, where we deep dive into the heart of what matters. I'm your host, Judd Shaw, adventurer, storyteller, agent of change, and speaker on authenticity and human connection. Join me as we explore the complexities of human connection, featuring theorists, scientists, and speakers. Our mission is simple: to inspire you to reclaim your true self and create genuine connections with others. Join me as we lay down our armor and live authentically.
Hello, you beautiful people, and thanks for tuning in. Today, we're talking with Kate Davis, a comedian, writer, speaker, mother of three, and actress. Kate Davis has the unique ability to find, humor in any situation. Kate's generous insight and outspoken character provides a powerful combination to help organizations empower their staff with effective tools for managing stress and sustaining motivation. Let's see what's behind the armor with Kate.
Kate, you teach us about the art, the beauty, and really the love of humor and how that deepens human connection. You are an internationally renowned keynote speaker, an author, a podcast host, a stand-up comedian, and a mom of three. Thank you so much for finding the time to come on the show.
Well, you are welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. I'm so grateful for you coming on. And, I kind of, when I think about your jobs,
Yep.
I can have a stab as a father myself of the job that's the most difficult of all of them, but
Oh my
also the most rewarding. And what I found interestingly was your role as mom of three actually led to your career in comedy. Tell us
Yeah.
about that journey.
I just needed to get out of the house, Judd. That's what happened. I'm out of here. I don't even know you people. You take all my money. Forget it. I didn't even know how broke I was until last year somebody stole my identity and it ruined her life. You know what I mean? That's how expensive kids are. It doesn't matter.
Right?
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, you know what? It was very organic. It was actually 97 when I started stand up. I had two kids, one in me, so three, so to speak. But I lived around the corner from a comedy club that I had to pass by every day to get to my best friend's house. So one night after putting the kids to bed, I wandered in and never really looked back. It's more an addiction, I think. But back then there was no YouTube. There was no, like, if you wanted to see stand up, it was old school. You went to the club and saw stand up, and it literally something I could do a couple nights a week, 5 minutes at a time, that fueled everything else I was trying to balance.
Comedy, how artful and
Terrifying.
creative it can be and terrifying, but it's a form of communication, right? How does humor deepen human connection?
That is a great question. How does humor, you know what? It's interesting because if we look up connectivity nowadays, it's literally all computer related. But
Yeah.
if I tell a good joke, it brings everyone into that moment, and a shared moment allows us to bond. We always remember, what are you going to remember from an award show? You're going to remember the funny in it. If you're at a conference, you're going to remember, the funny speaker. I think it's a way that really connects people by sharing. We all love to watch like dumb cat videos, cats falling. Like it doesn't take a lot for us to laugh, but it does take a lot for us to connect.
Mm.
And laughter, I believe, truly does make us kinder to one another.
Taking the stage and obviously getting laughs and getting applause can be very validating. And I wonder for you, because I know for me in my history, part of that also became an addiction. You mentioned that word, and for me,
Yeah.
my addiction was the external validation, the applaud and
Right.
the success, and everybody really just rooting on my veneer. But
Right.
how do you balance that?
You know what? I think it's I think that's a great point and a great question because I think it's really about it's not telling the next best joke. It's really
Mm,
about not taking ourselves so seriously and bringing that to every aspect of our lives. When we can laugh at ourselves, whether it be our successes or our failures, whether it can be not even failures or just us trying. I think it's so important to have that attitude of this could go sideways, but that's okay. And I think having that attitude, it lets us be more playful and it lets us be more innovative because we are more playful and we're more creative and we're more willing to take chances because we don't have that weight of this has to be perfect, this has to be right. When we were kids, we were always taking chances, falling, getting back up, starting again. So I think to the point, it's really about not taking ourselves too seriously and bringing that to every aspect of our lives. And in terms of me saying it's an addiction, I love stand up. And for me, it was also a social aspect of that at that point in my life, not so
mm,
much now, but when I started, comics became my family. They really became my comrades, my tribe, my people. It was something I could throw ideas off of, and my kids were my material. So I was set. But back then, like in the, late 90s, in
mm.
my country anyway, I think there was about 7 women in this country doing comedy at that point. So it was definitely a boys' club and definitely something that was sometimes challenging and just the misogyny of even in audiences at that time. But it was definitely something I loved, that terrified me, that excited me, that just made me feel a part of something, I think, bigger than myself and almost in service.
Hmm. Have you seen a difference in Canada to other countries when it comes to sort of this uh, atmosphere behind the stage in the comedic world?
You know what? I don't know because I haven't done that much comedy elsewhere. Well, I do quite a bit in Europe, but not I haven't I just got my papers, so I'm coming to the States.
I
But
love it.
it's definitely been I think funny is funny, and no
Yeah.
matter what. But there are translations. Like I've one joke I do here that just is my closer. Like it's my pride and joy. And then I do it in Norway and they're like, we don't understand. Because it just does, and I'm speaking English there, and like, but it just doesn't translate. So some things might not translate, but for the most part, because I'm so observational and I really speak about family and that sort of dynamic, I think it reads well everywhere because we
And,
all have kids who are jerks.
and talking about human connection, though,
Yeah.
right? The common thread is the laugh. That's
Yes.
internationally known.
That is.
It's right. It feels and it reacts and it senses. That language of
Yes.
laugh
And it's
is
not
universal,
something that's taught. It's something that babies
mm,
do in every country.
right?
It's our inherent right to be joyful and laugh and find things funny. So it is. I think it's one of, they say music is the language of the world or math, but I think laughter is pretty high up there as well.
Mm, I'm with you. Plus, I'm
Mm.
terrible at math.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, I was wondering though that at some point after your stand-up comedy career has launched,
Yep.
you get to a point where, speaking of hilarious, you write this book. I'm sorry. You write this book, Second Best Mom,
Yeah.
which the title alone is hilarious. Stories, tips, and okay advice.
I'm not that good at
Uh,
it.
Printed in, I think, 2019.
Yeah.
And it's just this collection of your stories, of your experiences too, as a parent, as a mom.
Yeah.
Tell me sort of how did that journey take you from now the comedy stage to author, to writing this book, which actually
Yeah.
was your second book. You had already written a book.
Yeah, I helped write and edit a book called The Breastfeeding Diaries. with a publishing company called Meadowbrook Press in Minnesota. So, and they actually found me and asked me to be a part of it. So, but a Second Best Mom, um, it was, it's so interesting because Second Best Mom actually came from my very first speaking engagement. So I was I was hosting conferences as a stand up, and they were huge conferences here. They were called The Power Within, and they were like, they would bring in like Barbara Walters and Bill Clinton and like massive, huge Serena
Yeah, big names.
Williams and like big names. And I ended up hosting, and as I'm watching like Loretta LaRoche and Jerome Brzezinski and Aaron Brockovich and all these incredible people, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I actually want to do this and make an impact. Now, this was before TED Talks, or that
Mm.
I really knew this existed in, this, I had no idea. So I was like, I want to do this. And I started giving back in church basements. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start like figuring this out. There were no books on how to write a keynote or nothing I could find. So I started giving back in church basements and just asking moms what stressed them out. And, moms are like, this and this, and, everything we're going through as parents. I shouldn't say moms because it's not gender specific.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I started gigging, and then this one woman who ran the Canadian Comedy Awards actually ran this women's conference. And I was like, do you mind if I do this keynote at your conference? I've been working on it. It's Parenting with Humor. And so my first keynote was on a trade room floor. Everyone's selling everything, and I'm like stuck in a corner. And the announcements comes over. It's like at 2 p.m. Kate Davis will be talking in the northeast corner of the Trade Center. Like it was not glamorous. I was probably one of the hardest rooms I've ever played. But they ended up getting a sponsor to pay for me, and it was called the Mom and Caregiver magazine. And after I did my first keynote, which was supposed to be an hour, and I think I did it all in about 23 minutes. I was so nervous.
Right.
Right. And then, but this Mom and Caregiver magazine ended up sponsoring me, and they asked me to write a monthly article about parenting with humor. And so I started writing them. And because I was writing every month for this magazine, I wrote one article a month for over a decade. And
Wow.
it was all put into this book. So it's all about raising my kids, how I use humor in doing so, and how sometimes I couldn't use humor. But it was just a lot of fun, and definitely a labor of love for sure. And honestly, like I self-published this one, and I sell it at events, I sell it at comedy shows, and it's a nice, you know what? I read it now and I was like, wow, that happened. I don't even remember. Like it's a good record for me from my parenting years.
Mm.
Because my kids are grown now, that it's so nice to have that. I was like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. But so yeah, but one of my youngest daughter, who's super witty, oh my God, she hated me so much when she was a teen, Judd. Her caller ID for me just said my dad's wife. Yeah, you heard me. Uh-huh. But she was so funny. And even as a little kid, I know it's the worst and the best. But
Uh-huh.
she actually made me a Mother's Day sign that said second best mom. And I was just like, well, that's the name of the book. So that's how all that played out. Yeah.
And I love that you own that in both
Yes.
humor, and that probably
Yeah.
drove a connection itself, that you were able to see it for its funniness,
Oh my God, I could have been really hurt and
right?
insulted because I was like, "Well, who's the first best mom?" And she mentioned her aunt. She's like, "Aunt Fern," and I'm like, "Stop
Fern,
it." Yeah, well, Aunt Fern can pay for your braces. Let's do that.
right? Where's my ribbon?
Yeah, where's my participation ribbon in this? Yeah.
So, what I'm really interested in hearing from you, because you
Yep.
did point out, and I agree with you, that it's not really gender specific. It's parents and caregivers. However, there is a part that is gender specific. And that is that the female carries the baby and the male does not. And the
Yes.
distinction of that is that for a long period of time before this child is even born, there's a large part of the mother that has to give up a sense of maybe connection, because now the focus becomes the baby. The baby's scans, the baby's tests, the baby, the baby's development, this whole
Right.
embryo of developing into a baby, and the amount of concentration and energy and time and focus is on that baby. And maybe also different for some men, but from my perspective, when I'm at the office, it's a little easier to forget than maybe the mom who's actually still carrying the child.
Fair enough.
It's always with for that period of time, right? And so I wonder, and I think this is a really interesting dialogue of what happens when you have a lot of your comedy is based on your parenting, right? On being a mom.
Yeah.
Being a mom actually led to your comedic career.
Yeah.
Your books are written on parenting and about being a mom. And so much of your identity and so many other moms, a large part of their role, their identity, their person is mom. And so I wonder, when we talk about human connection, how do you make sure that mom gets connection with herself
Well, that
so she
is,
can help others?
yeah, no, as new parents, I mean, for men, it's definitely that overwhelming sense of responsibility, of having to provide, of being protective. I think the roles of parenting have changed a lot since I was a kid, definitely. But in terms of carrying a child and all that, yeah, we get home, we're leaking, our hair's falling out. No one tells us about that. We're trying to heal. Everyone who was helping, and thank God for them, have to get back to their own lives, and including our, spouses or partners. And then you are left with newborn, and survival of the fittest comes to mind. Right? And you are left with a body you don't even recognize. And the only thing you just wish you could be the weight you were when you first thought you were fat. Like there was a book called What to Expect When You're
Oh
Expecting.
yeah, I read it.
It's right. It's
There's more than one version now, or
version. Yeah,
volume or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, it's 351 pages. There's 9 pages on being a dad in that 351 page book.
Mm.
Nine. You know what? It comes with coloring sticks. That's what
Mm.
it comes with. Like it's definitely, I loved being pregnant. I have friends who really hated it and found it very trying and were really sick. I actually really enjoyed it, I have to say. And I never thought about, I want my body back. Well, maybe at the end a little bit, but like honestly, it's yeah, I never in terms of taking care of yourself, for me, stand up was doing that. It was the one thing I could do 5 minutes at a time that fueled everything else I was trying to balance in my life, whether it be parenting or my relationship or taking care of my children. And I feel like me doing stand up was me teaching them to follow their dreams just like I am. I was never going to play the martyr. But also at the same time, all my first two kids were only 15 months apart. And at that moment in my life, that's where I was. I was taking care of these, incredible, awesome little creatures who you're madly in love with. And whether that's hormones or, chemicals being released, thank God for them. So you don't eat your newborn. Um, you're like, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I never thought, I always thought of it as expansive. I never thought about it as, oh, this is going to limit me. I'm not going to be able to do this, and this, and this. For me, it was one of the most creative things I've ever done in my life, making a child. Whether I had a lot to do with it or not, I don't know. But I just think, once we accept where we are, we can be more present to the life we're in. And that's when things change. And that's when things open up. And it's really appreciating where you're at in all those moments. I'm an empty nester now. My kids are all in their 20s. And it's definitely, and then two came back with more people. They don't leave, Judd. We're screwed. But other than that, it's definitely, um, and I love being an empty nester so much. Oh, my place was so clean. I can't believe
Yeah,
they're
but
back.
see, I have met parents though
Yes.
who they lose their sense of identification. They lose their
Yeah.
sense of identity.
Yeah,
That may be your
absolutely.
experience, which is wonderful that it has added so much to your life.
Yeah.
But I've also met a lot of moms and a lot of dads, a lot of
Well, they
parents
put all their yeah.
who they put all their identification, their role is mom
Yeah.
or dad. And
Yeah.
so just like husband or wife or girlfriend,
Yeah.
you can put everything in and you get disconnected, a sense of feeling of
Yeah.
losing that connection with yourself. And that's where I think is a really hard for a lot of people, particularly maybe when the empty nest comes and now you go,
Yeah, what do
now
I do
what?
now? Now what? Absolutely. Or what now? Yeah, no, absolutely. And I see that. And I mean, it hasn't been my story that I've written, but at the same time, yeah, absolutely. Look, parenting, as we both know, is a lessening and letting go. You make this child, you give birth, you let go. You're nursing, you let go. They go to school, you let go. They move out, you let go.
Mm,
It's one big lesson in knowing that you've taught them right, trusting in that, and letting go.
I love
But
that.
you're absolutely right. With yourself intact in that, it's way easier. And I think it's also, as a woman really juggling, my career, my art, my kids, my relationship, we're jugglers, and it's really where where are we putting how are we finding the balance in that? But for me, it's definitely been a lot of laughter, a lot of, just being goofy and just having fun with it. I've never given any of it so much weight. Look, crap's going to happen. It's all stuff is coming. Crap is always going to happen in our lives. That's a part of being human. But it's what we bring to it and how we adapt and cope with what's happening that counts, right?
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah.
true. I love it. I
Yeah.
love that. And so I was wondering, also with so much stock in in parenting, in a sense, it sounds like comedy is your oxygen, right? It's like if I'm finding yoga, or somebody else goes for exercise, somebody else is doing something like, in other words, the connecting part to you was
Yeah.
actually your work. It felt like
Oh, yeah.
your time, your moment. And I was wondering if in your life, do you find that there's a balance between connection with self and connection with others? Or is one of those connections more apparent in your life? So maybe you do so much work for service for others, right? Your keynote speaking and your coaching and the books that you're putting out and your comedy. It's a lot of stuff for others. And I wonder, is that
Yeah.
also where you find connection with yourself? Or is there somewhere else in some way that you balance that to make sure that while others always get your beauty and your art and your creativity, you're getting that yourself?
Wow. Okay, Judd. I thought it was going to be a light conversation. I just start crying. I know. I gotta do it. Fine. Um,
You wanna lay down? You wanna lay down?
Is there a couch I can land? Oh wow. Okay. Well, okay. For me, first of all, you always have to connect with yourself. And if you don't do that, you can't really connect with others. There
Hmm.
might be a superficial connecting, but are we really, putting that forth? Second of
Yeah.
all, connecting with ourselves or others is listening to ourselves. When I say that, like, am I listening to myself? Do I need more sleep? Do I need, to go for a walk? Do I need to go eat chicken wings and drink some, vodka sodas? Like, where am I at? Am I really listening to myself? Am I really respecting the space I want to be in? And I think once you do that and really connect with yourself, then you can connect with others.
I
But
love
humor
that.
is definitely a way of connecting. I'm never, like, I'm my worst enemy to myself. Like I could can I say shit on this? Can I shit
Yeah.
talk myself?
Yeah.
Like, I can shit talk myself all day long, 20, 30 times a day. And if one person did it to me, I'd be so hurt, So it's
I
learning.
wanna say shit too on my podcast. I've never said the
I'm
word
so
shit.
sorry.
Sounds so
Well,
eloquent
you know
and
what
a
I mean? Like, we
microphone and
should
a
talk
headphone.
ourselves, and we're so negative.
It's so true. We're our worst
Right?
enemy, right?
We
But
are
I agree
so
with you. I
much.
like the pattern and that flow. Connect with yourself, then you can connect with others,
Yeah.
and then you can expand those connections, right? You can't show up on stage and give to others. You can't do the keynote. You can't do
Yeah.
if you're not taking care of yourself. I love
And
that.
I gotta say, I come from many generations of shitty listeners. I'll say that again. Like, my
Mm.
family does not listen. Like, you could be talking to them, looking them in the eye, and I know it's just like in one ear, out the other. So I've worked really hard on listening, and listening, I think, is one of the keys to connection and to really connecting with others. I mean, we've all been at those parties where everyone's sort of, I'm talking to you, but I'm shoulder surfing. Like, where's the next best person or more important person than you are? I want to talk to, while I'm actually supposed to be talking to you. So I think listening is another really tool that I've had to spend a lot of time on and really learn to pay attention and listen to others because that creates empathy as well. Where is that
Yeah.
person? I'm walking in their shoes. I'm listening to them. So I think that's
Yeah.
really important as well.
Have
Yeah.
you had the pleasure of meeting Brian Miller? You know Brian Miller?
No.
He's in the impact community, and he talks about the magic of human connection. He's a really great guy. And he has this thing called perspective taking. And it reminds me what you're saying, which is, the first thing is when you're asking for someone's emotional sense is don't be a mind reader, ask. But the
Yeah.
second part to it is he says, ask to understand, not ask to
Yes.
listen.
Yes. I love that.
Right?
I have to say, so my 20-year-old daughters are back. Anyway, they're back. They came back with fake plants, Judd. What? Aren't they the generation of authenticity? Aren't they the reason I had to give up my Spanx? Like, how? Anyway, doesn't matter. But the one thing the one
Right?
thing they are teaching me are boundaries. They are so Gen
Good one.
Zers are so good at boundaries. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I never would
Right.
have said that to anyone. They're like, I need time. I'm feeling this. I not right. I'll ask them to do something. They're like, I'll get to it, but right now, I'll storm in their room and they're like boundaries. And I'm like, boundaries. And then I leave and I knock and then I storm in. Doesn't matter. I'm working on
Uh-huh.
myself. It's
Yeah.
all a progress. But yeah, so it is yeah, it's people think so differently nowadays and they're also way more sensitive than we were allowed to be, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. 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 And I used to say at first I realized it was just a different form of communication. Like I have team members at my law firm. We have a range of team members in,
Yeah.
in in both age and diversity. And I found that, the younger generation, it is a different level of communication. But I used to listen to a lot of people say, they're lazy or they're always running off or they want to balance their life or they want to find it. And then it like woke up and I was like, wait, maybe they are the first generation to get it.
Yes.
Like I used to
Yeah.
think
Why are
like,
we
no,
working so
like,
hard?
right. I could work 24 hours. I could work from anywhere. Who cares? Like
Yeah.
the world, it's not that interesting, and meanwhile, that short sightedness, those blinders, also led me ultimately to my dark night of the soul because that's all I did. And I didn't give
Yeah.
myself the balance. And I think that their grasping of mental health and the importance of mental wellness is brilliant. And I love that generation
Has
for
it
doing it.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Has it changed the way you lead your practice now? Like your law
The,
firm? Have they
it, it,
changed the way you look at it?
it has.
Yeah.
And what really started the shift in that leadership was that servant leadership. The idea behind it is that I'm really here, a great leader, to be a mentor, to be,
Yeah.
a thought provoker, to help you grow professionally,
Yeah.
personally, and find meaning and purpose in your work. And so what led that is what I realized that when I can communicate, which means understanding how they feeling, like it's 5:31 and I go, "Hey, Johnny, can you just send this in?" And they go, Yeah, tomorrow, put it on my desk. And I'm like, 5:31? What? But then you know what? I'm like, Johnny's got it right.
Yes.
Why should I
But
be
it
entitled
also
to tell this
drives us
person after
mad.
5? Well, because I came from that different,
Yeah,
like
get it all
I'd
done.
stay till
Gotta
7, but then
yeah,
also I led to a point where I'm crawled up in a fetal position in the
yeah,
corner of my garage at 47 years old, broken.
yeah,
So
yeah. Johnny's gonna be surfing at 47.
I hope I'm with him.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so I have this framework, the Connection Cure. And CURE stands for CURE. It's an acronym: conscious awareness, understanding, renewing, and then expanding. And it all deals with human connection. The first thing it starts to talk about is that conscious awareness, understanding how we're showing up in the world, right?
Yeah,
And is it genuine? Is it true? Are we masking up for the wrong reason, shame, guilt, wanting to fit in?
right.
Understanding the importance of that, and then renewing those connections. And I thought that, I wanted to know, in comedy,
Yes.
how do you find that you expand your connections through humor?
With other people?
Yes.
Okay. Um, well, in terms of expanding that connection with other comics, we have a common ground. But in terms of expanding it with the general public who are watching my show and being a part of it, like I am naturally funny. I'm always making jokes at home. I have a 80-year-old mother I'm, taking care of, and it's, she's outlived 3 men at this point. We're
You have to write a book about
Oh
that.
my God, we're trying to find her a fourth. Anyone listening to this podcast? She's on Plenty of Fish.
Let's do it. What kind of that? What's her?
Anyway,
Wait. Let's do what activities is she like? Walks
oh
on the
my God.
beach,
She
romantic
no. Oh
movies.
God.
Let's
No.
let's let's find her a man
You
on
know
the
what she
show right
likes?
now.
She's done. She's done with all that crap. All she just wants someone to hang out with, eat some good food that's not probably good for you, but who cares? You're gonna die soon, right? And just good cuddle partner.
All
Maybe
right.
go on a
Any
couple
good
trips a year.
cuddlers?
Yeah,
Fast food,
yeah.
cuisine.
She's
We
pretty
got somebody.
feisty. She's a
We got a
feisty
feisty one
redhead.
looking for
Oh
you.
my God, she's so young looking. Anyway, every time we go out, people are like, "Are you guys sisters?" And I'm like, "Do I look 80? Stop it. What is happening? Doesn't matter." I took her for her 80th birthday. I took her to Ed Sheeran. Oh my God. And then we went and saw LL Cool J. It's too
Oh,
much.
great.
Anyway, I know. But anyway, back to the connection question. I do find humor definitely is a great way to connect with people, but life isn't always funny, and stuff
Mm.
happens, and for me it's just being really authentic. And I'm always like, this is it. Like, there's no, oh my God, I'm on a podcast. Like, this is it. This is who I am. There's no different voice associated with. I could literally be anywhere right now. This is what you would get. And I find authenticity. And I'm not saying I'm not shy at moments, or anything like that, but it definitely, for me, a connection is, it's got to be an authentic one. And if it's not there, not pushing it. Who cares? Maybe that person doesn't like you. Maybe they're,
Yeah.
I think it was Tyler Perry who said some people are in your lives for a season and some people are in for the entire show, all seasons. So, and I've had very intense relationships with people in my life, and then all of a sudden those just end. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, maybe this isn't good for me, or maybe it's not in my best interest to be a part of this right now. And then connecting with yourself and knowing, when to say no and when, it doesn't feel right as well, I think is just as valuable in keeping healthy, happy, and whole.
So, I hear that on the comedic to comedic side, it's a sense of belonging, which drives the connection,
Yeah.
right? It's, as you say, your tribe, which I describe as a group of people who understand and share values and traditions and techniques and ways and things of
Yeah.
that nature. And they can look differently throughout, your space that you live, work, love, and play. and then I hear it with the audience, is that it deepens the connection because you are being authentic, and therefore they
Yeah.
can connect with you. And that authenticity for you means it's the way you show up in the world is consistently the same.
Yes.
Is that how you
Absolutely.
look at authenticity? Like what would you say? If somebody shows up at a job, they may have to take out their nose ring, right?
Yeah.
But going home, they put it back in because now, the job didn't allow
Right.
piercings. Okay, I get it. But it
That's
doesn't
who
mean
they
that they're
are.
being inauthentic. They're still showing up. They just can't wear it. And
Oh,
and so what
yeah.
I was thinking is I was trying to drive this down. I love your thought on this. I was trying to drive this down, and I was thinking, was it that if someone has a sense of core values and those values become like a compass, that they are always using those core values in all aspects of their life? So a guy who I had a friend of mine, really a creative genius, he had shared with me once that said that if you are like, you're putting out on social media that you're like this nice guru spiritual essential thing, and you show up at you know at a party and you're a real jerk,
Yeah.
like you are not that guy at all, right?
Yeah.
Now you're being inauthentic. So what does it look like for you?
Well, I've met a lot of people in a lot of industries like that, I gotta say. And you're just like, what? You don't walk your walk? You're not talking your talk?
Mm,
Like, come on. Like, wow. Yes, definitely in all industries I've met that, but it doesn't mean I want to be that. And look, we all have to be different. Like, I'm gonna act differently when I walk into a corporate, when I'm doing my keynotes and I'm in a blazer and I'm playing the part of I belong here. Right? But to me walking into a comedy club in my ripped jeans and a t-shirt and a baseball cap, like I'm definitely, there's two different personas there. But at the
right.
same time, I think my genuine voice is still the same.
Right. You're
You
not
know,
wearing a mask in either situations.
no.
Yeah.
And then
So good.
some places I'm nervous, like when we did, I don't know how much your people know about you, Judd, but we're in a sort of school together, a community group about learning how to be better at what we do, which is keynote speaking.
Yeah.
And when we were in that boot camp situation where there was about 150 people, I was like shyer than I didn't feel like I could be myself there. I
Mm.
felt like I was holding back who I
Mhm.
was. I was just like, I don't know what to make of all these amazing, incredible people and where I sort of fit into that. But at the same time, the people I did meet, the people I did connect with were, I feel, very authentic connections. So I think that's a difference, like really taking, those snippets, those small moments. They don't have to be big moments. They can be little moments
Yeah.
of
I've had the great
authenticity.
honor and privilege of being in those, the community with you in those groups. And I share that feeling. It so
Yeah.
resonates with me. And I think
Where you're
what I
like,
think about that is
"Ooh."
that, yeah, because we're
Yeah,
human, right? We're wired to
yeah,
connect. We put our name tag on, and it's like,
yeah,
hi, I want to be heard and I want to be seen and I want to feel
yeah,
valued. And I
yeah,
come in the room and then you go, oh my God, there's like so many titans of our industry in there
yes,
and
yeah.
really, really good.
Or
And
just
that's where
really
human
like
nature starts to come
extraordinary
in.
athletes and you know,
Extraordinary people,
yes, like
extraordinary
just
people.
yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes we walk in, at least for me, and I love that. And I have to catch
yeah,
that. I have to catch that imposter syndrome effect that comes in and goes, wow, these are like extraordinary people. I'm not
yeah.
extraordinary.
But how many people have you helped in your practice over the years? You
In all
know,
aspects, yeah, I
yes,
have to catch myself and say,
yeah,
no, you deserve to be in this room too.
yes, or you wouldn't be in there. That's what
Yeah.
I believe. You wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't supposed to be a part of it now. Like so many times, there's a great quote and it goes like this. I want to thank those for denying me what I mistakenly thought I wanted.
Mm.
Right? I want to thank those for denying me what I mistakenly thought I would, because so many times, as a comic, other people are getting stuff and you're like, why don't they like me? Or what's the matter with me? Or why aren't they seeing my light the way, they're seeing that person's? And you can't compare. We're all exactly where we're meant to be. And all we
Mm.
can do is put in the work and be ready for our chance when it comes. Right? Like, I still don't feel like I've written my best joke yet in my life.
What are you writing about now? Like, what is your monologue
Do you want to
stuff
hear
about
my
now?
newest joke?
Oh wow, what I love. Are you kidding me? You got
Okay,
to tell me.
it's silly joke, guys.
I
Don't
love
don't
this.
you're not going to be impressed. But my new joke I'm working on. I wrote this week. I'm always trying to write, and I still hit open mics. But the new joke, a new bit, because I'm talking about, because my husband and I, we've been together over 34 years. It's a long time, right? Lifetime.
It's a long time.
Oh my
I couldn't
God, I
stay with
know.
myself for 34 years.
Right? I can't even believe it. Anyway, but now we used to run to bed, we used to run to bed to make love. Now we run into bed to see who falls asleep first so we don't have to hear the other person snoring. I'm like, that's as hot as it's getting now. Who's gonna fall asleep first before the other one starts snoring and we're leaving? It's hot, man. It's hot. Yeah,
It went from making babies to
Yeah,
making
yeah.
yours asleep.
Making, without the stop it.
Right?
Yes,
Right?
hot.
I love
Ah,
that. I
no.
love that.
Just
So, do you find you
thanks.
now talking more about your other relationships, moving away from your kids? Is there outer nest, or are you
I still have
finding?
quite a few jokes about my children.
Yeah.
But especially now that they've moved back. But also, yeah, I know. Oh my gosh,
Right.
so many. But also, yeah, for me it's just whatever, like I talk about putting on Google Maps. Just if I'm alone in the car, I'll put on Google Maps just so I can argue with it. Tell me to turn left. I'm like, I know a better way. We're gonna go rerouting. Anyway, doesn't. I'm a OCD. Doesn't matter.
Conflict with AI,
Mm-hmm.
conflict resolution.
Oh my gosh! And if you Google me, it says I'm 72 on Google. I've been trying to get that removed forever, and
No, you don't change that. You forever. You know what that's going to look like in 30, 40 years?
like, how is she still alive?
She's 72.
Oh my gosh. No, it keeps getting older. Oh my gosh. It
Oh,
doesn't.
I didn't know
It
that. I
doesn't.
thought it
Yeah.
changed. I'm
Thanks,
sorry about
Josie.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's your. I wanted to wrap up the show by
Yes.
thanking you so much and asking you, how do you authentically connect with yourself? How do you find that for yourself? What does that look like for Kate Davis?
For me, it's definitely, I'm very routine, first of all. I know that about myself. I love routine. I wake up, I light an incense, I, get
Mm.
myself ready for my day. I know I'm spacey, so I always have to check my calendar because I miss everything. I'm like, oh, I have a conference call. Anyway, but I didn't miss this. But no, how do I connect with myself? Like, really, for me it's just knowing where I'm at. I have some days where I'm really creative and some days where I'm not at all. I find it has to incubate in me what's going on, and then I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm not disciplined enough." And I'm like, "No, this is the way I work." So I think it's respecting yourself in the sense of, what really works for you and
Yeah.
how are you, and also being open enough to try new things, try new
Mm.
ways of working, try new ways of thinking about it. Like, I'm such a creative. I've never thought about my business as a business. I'm like, what? I need a flow chart. I need a dashboard. Like, I've just, like,
Yeah.
I just think so differently to the way a CEO of a company probably does, where I'm like, just give me some cupcakes. I'm happy. But
You
it's
know, I
definitely, yes.
it's like a mindfulness. You have a real great mindfulness approach about it.
Yeah, I do. And you know what? It's so funny because in my keynote, I do speak about mindfulness. and and just one line. It's impossible to laugh and not be in the moment. You can't do it.
That
So
is
you want to
so good. Can you say that again?
one of the most easiest and most authentic ways to be mindful is to laugh, because it's impossible to laugh for real and not be in the moment, which is why comedy, I think, is so magical, because it really does bring an entire group into a moment, and a shared moment allows us to bond.
That was so well said. What a
Oh,
great way
thanks.
to end. You are absolutely magical,
Thank you.
super funny,
You too.
super great conversation. I am so thankful that you found the time for me and came on, and I cannot wait to hopefully connect with you in the near
Yes,
future
me
at,
too.
at one of the events. And Kate, thank you so much again for
Thanks for
coming on the
having
show.
me. I'm
Mm,
excited. I'm excited for you in this podcast. And thank you for having me on.
Thank
I
you.
want to extend my deepest gratitude to you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow us on your favorite platform or share this episode with a friend. You can also follow me on Instagram at Judd Shaw Official. A special thank you to personal injury law firm Judd Shaw Injury Law for their support in helping us bring this podcast to life. Remember, friends, authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about embracing our vulnerabilities, celebrating our strengths, and owning our stories. Until next time.